Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. This video is Peter doing a really dumb lens check, but this is what he does when he's trying to decide what lens he wants to use.
So this video came about a couple of things. We recently went to Europe and I have just way too much Leica gear. And there's two problems with that. Number one is traveling with this, and number two is there's nothing worse than getting to a shoot and going, and now what 50 am I going to put on? You're just wasting your time. So I decided I wanted to cut down my travel gear, and I also want to sell some of this gear because it's just silly me having all of this. So I don't know how I accumulated this many 50s. The main lenses I want to test is a modern Summilux, a more old-fashioned Summilux, something from around about the 80s, then a old-fashioned Summicron, again round about the, I think this was more round about the 70s, and then an old, very old Summicron which was in the 60s, but this was a collapsible. Now, I also have another 50. I've got the Noc Deluxe, which I absolutely love, but I only ever want to use this for wide open. It's quite heavy, and this lens will do everything that this lens will do once it's stopped down a little bit. So I don't want to be carrying that, and it's very expensive, but it does have a look for very special occasions. So that one's definitely not in my travel section. It's mainly I've accumulated this is because I couldn't work out what I wanted with the Leica system. I know exactly what I want with my Hasselblad system. I only need really 2 lenses, and there's a couple of extras I have just in case. But I want to cull this down. So the first thing I did was I got Rara into the studio and set up just a controlled lighting so it didn't vary much. So I've just set Rara up just on a table. We're using constant lights. We're using the June lights again, not sponsored, but they are great little light. And we've got a tiny little one on her face here, and 200 watts sitting up there, and I think this is like a 25 little watt one that can sit on top of your camera. And it's just so I can have that consistency without the sun changing. I'll start off at my 1.4, and that's popped up fine. And again, this isn't to look at sharpness, this is just to look at the feel of the lens. So I'm going to do 3 or 4 pictures of each lens until, cool, that's really pretty, that's really pretty. Cool. I like that a lot. Cool. Because sometimes if the face is just a bit better on something, sometimes tempts you to think it's a better lens. That's cool, that's really pretty. Cool, that's most likely enough. So that's my modern Summilux, and I'll just run through the rest of the lenses, and we'll get back to this once I get into the office and we'll have a look at the pictures. So with the test I did, and I'll just run you through them. My test isn't so much corner-to-corner sharpness and all of these other things that everyone else is testing. The main thing I wanted to test is how easy I got manual focus with these lenses, how accurate I was with my focusing, and how I felt about the rendering more so on the skin than the background. So if I just click you through these, this is a modern day Summilux, and then the next couple of images, some of the lenses I wanted to play with the aperture. So these are 3 different apertures on the modern day Summilux. Then there was the old fashioned Summilux, and I just sort of wanted to play with how I felt with the focusing, with it pretty much fully wide open. Then we're on the old Summicron, the same thing. I played with the 3 different apertures just to see more the rendering. And then finally, these last 2 are on the very old collapsible Summicron. So before I zoom in, my experience wasn't just about what I saw in the picture, it was actually the usability. So I found that in the modern day Summilux, it's got quite a short throw with the focusing, and instantly that made it, you'll see this is a longer throw with the focusing, that made it more attractive to me. The other thing is this will focus down to 0.7, where this will only focus down to 1 meter. So instantly, just the usability of those two. The Summicrons, I'm losing a stop. Instead of f1.4, I'm now starting at f2, which is no real biggie, but sometimes I just want that bit more. This will go down to 0.7, but this one will only go down to 1 metre. So just from that alone, without so much looking at the pictures, that's already removed the old-fashioned, well, my older version of the Summilux. So now that I zoom in, I just wanted to zoom in to 100% because I didn't want it zooming bigger than that because pictures tend to go softer. I'm finding 100% happy with my focusing on this. All three of these, I am happy how it's looking. The lashes, I can see the lashes, the catch lights are sharp because I'm more looking at catch lights for the sharpness, and the skin doesn't look over sharp. If I just flick between the old-fashioned Summilux and the modern one, you'll see it is slightly softer, which is not a biggie to me, but just the fact that the longer focus throw, and I couldn't get as close to the model. Then I'll come on to the old-fashioned Summilux, and you'll see it's a little bit softer, which I quite like that. So then on to the Summicrons, it was nice and sharp and everything, but I also felt like if I was going to carry two lenses, it might be the Summicron because it does have a slightly different rendering effect. It does feel a little bit contrasty and sharper. Onto the collapsible Summicron, this lens I absolutely adore as an arty lens. So this is more a lens, like a specialty lens when I'm trying to get an old-fashioned look. You'll see it's very low in contrast. It is a bit soft. It's also very easy to flare this lens. So it's a lens I would keep, but it's not a lens I'm going to travel with. So one of my favourite sort of focal lenses is around about the sort of 70 to 80. I originally bought the Leica, it's an antique around about 80s. It's an f1.4. It is a soft lens. I do like it, but I have had a little bit of trouble with it focusing, and I have had a little bit of trouble with lens flaring. It was like, I really, really like it as an arty lens, but maybe as a go-to safety lens, it was a little bit hit and miss sometimes. So the next lens I got, I decided to get the more modern SL Summicron, which is super sharp, but it's autofocus. Not a big fan of the focus by wire system at all. Really don't like that system. It's a little bit heavier. I like to have my ISO on one wheel and my shutter on another wheel, and I really like to have the aperture on the actual lens, and it doesn't have that. I found that it didn't solve my problem, so I went out and bought a modern Summicron 75, which is smaller, lighter than both of these, but I wanted to see again by doing a test. Now, the only other thing is I did buy a 24 to 90 and it's got a variable aperture, which I'm not a big fan on, but this is really, really handy for me in close. You don't have to keep changing lenses. I can just zoom in and zoom out on this. And I found this very, very handy working in Airbnbs, and especially doing mag submissions. I'm not stopping all the time to change the lenses. So I did a test again. We just set back up. I've just got a couple of frames of each. And what I'll do, I will zoom in on to these because there's no backgrounds in that you're going to see a difference. So the first two are on the modern Summilux. Now, I'm slightly soft on that, but that's just a me thing. When I got it nice and sharp on the catch lights, I'm happy with it's not too sharp on the skin. Then we go to the antique one. Now, it is very hard to see the difference, but if you look very carefully just in her eye area, you'll see how there's a little bit less contrast. The blacks aren't as black. But I'm still loving that lens, but like I said, it can be very hit and miss. Then I come to the SL Summicron, and you'll see it is a lot sharper. It is a very sharp lens. I don't need it this sharp, but look what it's doing to Beck's skin just there compared to there. You'll see it's there. See how it doesn't seem to have that harsher edge. There's definitely a harsher edge in there. And that is enough for me to decide that I'm going to sell this lens because it's too sharp for my liking. Then I came to my 24-90 and set it up around about 70. I think it was around about 77 where these were. And I was 100% happy with these if I needed to have an autofocus lens, and I'm very happy to use this in a small environment. So this isn't like your normal lens sort of test. This is a mixture of me having a look and making sure I'm happy with the images, but more about my experience using the lenses and then traveling with the lenses. And what I've come down to the fact is, yeah, I've got too much gear. I am going to sell some gear. So my conclusions are my carry an everyday kit traveling will be my little Summilux 35, Summilux 50, the modern version, the Summicron 75 and a Summicron 90. The 90 won't definitely always be in my bag. It's just a lens I really like, but I don't use it a lot. The keepers, which I'm going to keep just because they're more art lenses and I'll grab them when I have a certain look that I'm trying to do, is definitely the Noctilux 50 and my little 1960 collapsible Summicron. It's just got a look that I know there's going to be occasions when I want this sort of flat, old-fashioned type of look. I will be keeping my Summilux 75, the antique one, because I do like the look when I want that softer skin. So basically after this talk, those three lenses are going to go. I am most likely going to replace my 21 with a lens I used to own and my old assistant talked me into selling it, which is the 16-18-21, and I really miss that lens when I'm traveling. My final moral to the story is stop buying dumb shit. As I've seen, I could have used any of these lenses. My conclusion is I am now very, very comfortable that I know the actual lenses that I want to travel with and work with. And I know the Summicron, Monday Summicron 75 is going to be my go-to lens for most of my work, just like the 80mm on my Hasselblad is my go-to lens for most of my work. So I think as long as I have the space to work around, this will be the lens that I use the most, and hopefully this stops me ever buying any more Leica lenses. And this video is not to tell you what lens you should have. This video is showing you what I did so I know what lens I need, because everyone's got different tastes. So my recommendation to you, before you buy a lens, see if you can borrow it or rent it, and just when you're shooting with it, look at what you're looking for in a lens, not what other people are telling you.
Hope you guys enjoyed this. I will send you guys to another Not About the Gear video.